I need you to look at your legs right now, not figuratively. Actually look, because something may already be happening inside them that nobody has warned you about. In the next few minutes could genuinely change that. Here is the lie that has been quietly stealing your independence. You've been told by doctors, by your family, by everything you've read, that losing strength in your legs is just aging, that it's expected, that it's normal. That word, normal, may be the most dangerous word ever applied to your body, because here is what is actually true. Muscle in your legs does not disappear because you're getting older. It disappears because it's being starved every single day by what you're eating, or more precisely, by what nobody ever told you to eat. Your legs aren't failing you. You were failed by the information you were given. I'm Dr. Thomas Ellison, vascular researcher and author of 2 clinical studies on age-related muscle loss. I've been doing this for 22 years, and in that time I've sat across from more patients than I can count who came in believing that what was happening to their bodies was simply the price of a long life. It isn't. And I have the data to prove it. Let me give you a number that genuinely changed how I practice medicine. In 2021, Nature Aging published an analysis of 4,200 adults over 60, tracked for 7 years. The researchers weren't studying falls or hospital admissions. They were studying what those people ate, specifically which nutrients they were and weren't getting. The finding was striking. Adults with the lowest intake of 5 key nutritional compounds lost leg muscle mass 3.4 times faster than those who had adequate levels. Not 30% faster, 3.4 times. In practical terms, a 65-year-old with poor nutritional intake can end up with the leg function of someone who is 84, not from disease, not from injury, from what was on their plate. Today, I'm going to give you 5 foods ranked by scientific impact, from significant to extraordinary, and I'm saving the most important one for last. The number 1 food on this list is not a protein powder, not a supplement, not something from a health food store. It's something that most people watching this video have probably been told to limit or cut out entirely at some point in their life. And the research now suggests that avoiding it may have been one of the most damaging pieces of nutritional advice ever given to adults over 60. I'll get there. But first, we need to build the foundation, because the reveal only matters if you understand what comes before it. Before we start, I want to ask you something real. How are your legs today? Not last year, not who you used to be right now. Is the staircase something you think about before you try it? Does sitting in the car for an hour leave your legs stiff when you stand? Have you quietly stopped doing something you love to stall because you weren't sure your legs would hold you? Leave me a comment. Your age. And one thing your legs have stopped letting you do. I read every comment on this channel, not my team, me. And your story might be the reason someone else finds this video. All right, 5 foods. From powerful to life-changing. Let's count down. Number 5, sardines. I know. I've seen that reaction before. For decades, the conversation around fish and aging has been dominated by salmon, and salmon does belong here, as it really does. But sardines contain something different, something most people completely overlook. And it's one of the most chronically deficient nutrients in adults over 65. That nutrient is calcium. Now, before you think you already know where this is going, stay with me. Because most people think calcium is about bones, but that's only part of the story. Calcium is actually the electrical signal that tells your leg muscles to contract. Every step you take, your brain fires a signal. It travels down your spine, and calcium triggers the muscle to respond. When calcium is low, that signal weakens. It becomes delayed, unreliable, like a phone call with a bad connection. The message is sent, but it doesn't arrive properly. Sardines eaten with their bones, soft, fully digestible bones, deliver around 351 milligrams of a calcium per serving, more bioavailable than milk. And on top of that, omega-3s, vitamin B12, and vitamin D3, which is essential for calcium absorption into muscle tissue. Without D3, most of that calcium never gets used. A 4-year study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed over 1,100 adults aged 65 and older. Those with adequate calcium and vitamin D3 showed 28% greater preservation of lower body muscle mass. 28%. That's the difference between standing up on your own and needing help to do it. Gerald was 77, retired teacher from Baton Rouge. His wife noticed something subtle at first, a slight shuffle in his walk. Not dramatic, just different. The kind of change people dismiss until it becomes something bigger. Calcium borderline, vitamin D clinically low. We added 2 tins of sardines per week, that's it. 12 weeks later, his wife called my office. He had walked to the mailbox and back, half a mile, without stopping. She said she hadn't seen him move like that in 4 years. 2 to 3 times a week is enough. Choose sardines in olive oil if possible. Eat the bones. That's where the calcium is. A squeeze of lemon helps absorption, and honestly, there's no wrong way to eat them. Number 4, blueberries. And this is where most people start to get surprised, because when people think blueberries, Wesker, they think brain health, memory, cognition, dementia prevention. And that research is solid, but something equally important is usually ignored. What blueberries do for your muscles, specifically your leg muscles. The key compounds are anthocyanins, the pigments that give blueberries their color. And inside aging muscle tissue, they do something remarkable. They activate what researchers call satellite cells. Satellite cells are your muscle's repair system. They stay dormant until damage occurs. And damage is constant. Every time you walk, stand, or climb stairs. That's normal. That's how muscle maintains itself. But after around age 65, that repair system slows down. It doesn't respond as fast. Damage starts to accumulate faster than it's repaired. And over time, strength declines. Anthocyanins appear to wake that system back up. They reduce inflammation that suppresses those repair cells and restore their ability to function properly again. A University of Michigan study found that older adults consuming about 1 cup of blueberries per day showed nearly 20% faster muscle recovery after exercise. That matters more than it sounds, because pain after movement is one of the biggest reasons older adults stop moving. Less pain means more movement. More movement means stronger legs. Blueberries don't just nourish muscle, they remove one of the biggest barriers to using it. Dorothy was 72. Her physical therapist told her she was recovering too slowly to make progress. She was doing everything right, but not improving. We added 1 cup of blueberries per day. 6 weeks later, her therapist called my office asking what had changed, because Dorothy was suddenly progressing faster than expected for her age group. 1 cup a day is enough. Fresh or frozen, both work. Just avoid juice. You need the whole fruit. Number 3, whole eggs. Not egg whites, not substitutes. The full egg. yolk included. Now I know what some people are thinking here. For years, eggs, especially the yolk, were treated like something to limit or avoid entirely. That advice was everywhere, and for a long time it shaped how people ate. But the science has shifted significantly over the last 15 years. The American Heart Association updated its guidance. Harvard researchers clarified the difference between dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol. The fear stayed, but the science moved on. Here's what a whole egg actually does for aging legs. Eggs are one of the richest natural sources of leucine. Leucine is the amino acid that acts like a switch. It turns on muscle protein synthesis, the process that builds and repairs muscle. But there's a problem that happens with age. After 65, the body becomes resistant to that signal. It needs a stronger trigger to do the same job it once did easily. 2 whole eggs provide about 1.08 grams of leucine, enough to meaningfully activate that process again, even in older adults with muscle loss. And the yolk, the part most people were told to throw away, is actually where a lot of the critical biology is. Choline for muscle cell integrity, vitamin D3 for calcium utilization, phospholipids that help nutrients enter the cell properly. Removing the yolk removes most of the function. There's a clinical trial in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that compared 2 groups doing the same resistance training program. One group ate whole eggs after training, the other ate only egg whites. Same protein, different source. After 12 weeks, the whole egg group gained about 40% more lean muscle. That difference is not small, it's structural. Margaret was 74. She came in after her second fall in 6 months. She was afraid of her own stairs. She had been following a low-fat diet for over a decade, fully committed to the advice she had been given. No egg yolks ever. We added 3 whole eggs per day. 8 weeks later, she told me she walked up her stairs without holding the railing. First time in 2 years. That's not magic. That's biochemistry finally being supported again. 2 to 3 whole eggs in the morning is enough for most people. Soft scramble, poached, or lightly cooked in olive oil. High heat reduces quality, so keep it gentle. And if your doctor has specific cardiovascular restrictions, that's a conversation worth having. But for most adults over 60, the evidence is far more favorable than people realize. Now, number 2, beets. And this one is often misunderstood because beets don't look like performance food. They look like a side dish, something simple, forgotten. But inside the body, they do something very powerful. Beets are extremely rich in dietary nitrates, 3 to 4 times higher than most leafy greens. When you eat them, bacteria in your mouth convert those nitrates into nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is what controls blood flow. It regulates how oxygen and nutrients move through your system. But here's the key issue. After around age 75, the body produces significantly less nitric oxide naturally, about 30 to 40% less. That means blood flow becomes less efficient, especially in the legs. Muscles don't get the oxygen they need. Recovery slows down. Fatigue happens faster. Beets help bypass that decline. They restore nitric oxide availability. They improve circulation directly to working muscle. Wake Forest University researchers found that older adults consuming beet-derived nitrates had a significant increase in blood flow efficiency during movement, including better oxygen delivery to motor control regions of the brain. That matters because coordination isn't just muscle, it's also brain plus circulation working together. Elena was 68. She had already started using a cane. 3 doctors told her it was just aging. We added roasted beets 4 times per week in a short daily walk. 12 weeks later, she walked into my office without the cane. She was gardening again. She cried when she told me that. Roasting at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 45 to 60 minutes concentrates the nitrates. You can also blend them raw with citrus for better conversion, but don't boil them too long. The compounds leak into water. And timing matters. 60 to 90 minutes before activity gives the best effect. Now we are at the final food. Number 1, extra virgin olive oil. I know, this is usually not what people expect at the top of a list like this. Most people expect a protein, or something exotic, or something expensive. But what happens inside the body with olive oil is far more interesting than that. For decades, fat was seen as the enemy. Low-fat diets became the standard recommendation, and millions of older adults followed that guidance strictly. They reduced fat, often drastically, but in doing so, they also reduced something the body actually needs for muscle preservation. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal. And oleocanthal behaves in a very similar way to ibuprofen inside the body. It reduces inflammatory pathways, the same ones linked to chronic pain, joint stiffness, and muscle breakdown, but without the side effects of long-term medication use. That alone is important, but there's something even more significant happening inside muscle tissue. Olive oil polyphenols appear to interact with the mTOR pathway. This is the master switch for muscle protein synthesis, the same system activated by protein, the same system activated by resistance training. And in aging muscle, that system becomes less responsive over time. Olive oil appears to partially restore that responsiveness, helping the body hear the signal again. There's also hydroxytyrosol, a compound that protects mitochondria. Think of mitochondria as the energy factories of your cells. As we age, they accumulate damage. Energy production drops, recovery slows, fatigue becomes more common. Hydroxytyrosol helps slow that decline by protecting mitochondrial DNA from oxidative stress. A study from the University of Athens followed 840 adults over 65 for 3 years. Those consuming at least 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil per day had a 37% lower incidence of sarcopenia. That's a massive difference for something so simple. Richard was 81, retired Air Force pilot. When he came in, he could barely walk 2 blocks without stopping. He had been extremely disciplined his entire life, and extremely low fat for decades. We added 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil per day, 2 with breakfast, 2 with lunch. No other changes at first. 4 weeks later, nothing dramatic yet. But at 6 weeks, something changed. He walked from the parking garage to my office on the 3rd floor without stopping. Not because his muscles had suddenly grown, but because inflammation had started to come down. Because his muscle signaling was working more efficiently again. At 6 months, he completed a 5-kilometer walk for a veterans charity. He sent me a photo from the finish line, and I still keep it on my desk. 4 tablespoons per day is the typical evidence-based range. Use it as your main fat for low to medium heat. Drizzle it over vegetables, eggs, fish, legumes, but avoid high heat cooking. It damages the compounds. And quality matters. Look for extra virgin only. Dark glass bottle. Harvest date if possible. Freshness changes everything here. Now zoom out for a moment, because this is the part most people miss. These 5 foods are not isolated ideas. They work together. Olive oil improves absorption of fat-soluble nutrients from eggs. It enhances utilization of compounds in sardines. It supports antioxidant activity from vegetables like beets. The effect is cumulative, not additive, but synergistic. And that's the real point of this entire list. This is not about perfect eating. It's about restoring the biological conditions your body needs to function well again. Not in theory, in movement, in strength, in daily life. Because the truth is simple. You were not designed to slowly lose your independence. And muscle loss and aging is not just aging. It is a biological process that can be slowed significantly, and in some cases, partially reversed. When the body is given what it needs, 5 foods: sardines, blueberries, eggs, beets, extra virgin olive oil, available in any grocery store, backed by decades of research, and powerful enough when used consistently to change how your body moves through life. Not overnight, but meaningfully. And what matters most is not watching this video, it's what happens after it. Your next meal, your next grocery list, your next decision. If something in this video made sense to you, don't ignore it. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because every week this channel is about one thing: helping you keep strength for longer than you were told was possible. No products, no hype, just science. And one last thing, tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you want your legs to let you do again? Not everything, just one thing, because that answer is where change starts. Until next time, eat well, move every day, and don't stop believing that your best isn't behind you.